Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Does everyone have a outline of the schedule for today? Okay, I'll pass those around real quick. So one of the big things that we have today is actually Mary Stromberger. She is the Associate Dean of Graduate Affairs, and she's going to talk about the graduate student survey that was done 2 years ago, I believe. And the data has come back on that. We had a presentation last year that showed some preliminary data, but since then there's been some more work done on some of the qualitative data as far as the free response that came from that. So Mary has some update on that, and then we have some stuff that we would like you guys to do with your departments afterward. So please give her your attention.
Thank you. I have a few copies of the executive summary, if this is something that you're interested in reading. So I'll give that to Ryan to pass out. I don't think I brought enough for everyone, but if you want to have a copy of that, feel free to take one. No, that's the wrong presentation. Just a second. I have too many talks labeled the same thing. We also have the summary posted online on a website that I'm going to give talks about. So I don't know, I presented last year on details of the survey results, and I'm going to keep the results very brief, so I don't want to be repetitive. But I'll go over them briefly because I know that some of you may not have been here last year and did not participate in the survey. The full report, we have an extensive report that analyzes the quantitative and qualitative results of the survey, and it's available on the Institutional Research website, or IR. So if you were to just go under the CSU homepage and search IR, you'll find the IR website, and under Survey and Rankings. And once you're in Survey and Rankings, click on the Internal Surveys tab, and that'll lead you to a PDF report, and then the executive summary that's going around. So the purpose of the survey was several purposes, and I just want to stress too that this was the first survey that the graduate school has done that asked graduate students about their experiences at CSU. And this particular survey was not necessarily focused on academic programs and research and scholarship programs, for example, but it was more focused on a climate survey and satisfaction. And the results were intended to really just assess and get some background information on how do graduate students feel at CSU, where are some issues that we need to be working on. So really to gather some baseline data. We also wanted to use the survey to inform us about how can we improve different aspects of graduate education at CSU, to inform future surveys, what questions might we ask next time, and again to use as a baseline to see if we're making improvements in certain areas. So how many of you remember taking the survey? This was 2017. Okay, good. Thank you for doing that. I want to say that we only got about 18% response rate, which was low. And I will say that when we do our next survey, we're going to do a much broader campaign to get student participation, because we did find some very interesting information, and we're using this information to make some positive changes on campus. So it's a great way to share your perspectives, your stories, and we do listen and pay attention to what you're saying. But if you took this survey, you might remember that it was pretty lengthy. It was about 68 questions divided into various components, asking about student perceptions of the university, the graduate school, their departments, perceptions about staff and faculty and their advisors, how they feel about being welcomed and feeling valued and respected in their departments. There were some questions related to institutional policies. How are you familiar with policies? Do you know where to go to find policies and resources? overall comfort in the graduate school and the Fort Collins community. And then we also asked a couple open-ended questions. And those open-ended questions, one was about an opportunity to elaborate on a particular response or comment on a question that wasn't in the survey, and to also answer a question, what's one thing that you would like your department to do to improve its culture? So I just want to just touch very briefly on those overall survey findings. So the key findings were actually very positive, and I reported on this last year with Graduate Student Council. But overall, graduate students had very positive perceptions of CSU, the graduate school, and their departments. 75% of graduate students agreed that they are welcomed and respected here. Most students agreed that they feel comfortable in their classes overall. This was like 88% agreement with that question. Most students agreed that students, faculty, and staff are friendly and treat each other with respect and support. These agreements were above 80% across the campus. Very high remarks for graduate students agreeing that they view cultural understanding as important to their career. This particular area was one where we did not get a lot of agreements among graduate students. And so this raised a lot of red flags for us. So for example, only 40, depending on the demographic, student population, only 45 to 65% of graduate students said that they felt comfortable raising questions and concerns about teaching and advising. And only 50 to 62% agreed that they felt comfortable raising concerns related to issues of diversity and inclusion. So what that's saying is that, among the students that are on campus, 40 to 50% are not comfortable raising concerns. So that's an area that we want to be addressing in the near future. Also, only 40% of graduate students agreed with the statement that the university has individuals in leadership positions from diverse backgrounds. So, and this is similar to what we found in the CSU employee survey. We all recognize that we don't have diverse leaders in higher administrative positions. Okay. The themes from the open-ended questions were very interesting. So we had about 789 students respond to the survey, and 380 some, so about more than 50%, answered the open-ended questions. And again, the open-ended question was something that you would like your department to do to improve the culture, and then a general comment or elaboration of a response of something that wasn't in the survey. And so, oh gosh, that's the next one. Okay, this is back on the quantitative part. This is where, so we have these broad agreements on campus that yes, we're all happy, everybody's doing fine. But then when you look at the data more closely and you look at very specific populations on campus, such as the underrepresented minority students and non-heterosexual students, what we found was much less favorable responses to the climate on campus. So for example, underrepresented minority students and non-heterosexual students disagreed more often about feeling that they were treated fairly according to their race, ethnicity, for example. They had much less favorable responses on questions about perceptions to diversity and inclusion on campus, and much less favorable responses to their feelings of being comfortable in the Fort Collins community. And then also, if a graduate student was underrepresented or non-heterosexual, there was a much higher indication that they had at one point considered leaving their department due to issues related to diversity and inclusion. So that was very concerning. There weren't very many gender differences, females versus and males, on the survey questions, but we did find that females generally had less favorable responses related to how they're treated in the department and to issues related to diversity and inclusion. And one thing, going back on this one, the question about feeling comfortable raising concerns. if you're a PhD student and a female PhD student, much greater disagreement with questions about, do you feel comfortable raising concerns? So that is another big red flag for us. Okay, so now on to the open-ended questions. So based on the comments from over 300 graduate students, what we were able to do was classify comments according to 8 major themes. So for example, there was a small group of students who actually wrote very positive comments about their experiences at CSU. So about 30-some students said that they had, everything is great, there are no issues, life is wonderful at CSU. But as you got to the other themes, what you'll see is greater issues being raised, some concerns. One of the concerns is community and cohesion. Many graduate students wrote comments about the need for greater community building opportunities across campus, either within their departments, for example, between cohorts and programs, or even between different lab groups to reduce feelings of competition between lab groups. So students wrote about wanting to have opportunities for social gatherings with other graduate students, with faculty in their department, professional development activities to allow for networking among graduate students and faculty. What was really interesting too was we heard loud and clear that diverse types of gatherings are needed, gatherings that are sensitive to graduate students with families, so family-friendly activities, and that some activities should not have alcohol. I mean, we don't have to drink beer at every single activity that we do. Communication was another big theme about graduate students asking departments to be transparent about their policies and procedures and where to find resources on campus. Diversity, again, students told their personal experiences about how at times they did not feel welcome on campus, they felt discriminated against. And again, the recognition that we don't have diverse leaders on campus and that we need to do a better job, for example, of hiring diverse faculty. Students talked 2 broad themes related to faculty and advisors about specific issues with faculty. For example, feeling disrespected, being treated like an apprentice in the lab versus a mentee, for example. Recourse, and again, this goes back to the concern that graduate students that you said about not feeling comfortable raising concerns. In terms of recourse, graduate students felt that they didn't know who to go to when they had a problem, or if they knew where to go to, they didn't feel like it was going to do any good. So we need to be working on safe ways for graduate students to voice complaints and not be retaliated against. And then financial burden. And this goes beyond just the cost of tuition and fees at CSU, but there was a clear message that graduate students are having difficulty time in Fort Collins because of the high cost of living here. So this was all wonderful feedback to get, and what I want to talk tonight is what are we doing with this? So back on that IR website, the full report, this is a very lengthy document that breaks down the analysis of each question. It also gives quite a few quotes that students left in their open-ended comments. And so there's a lot of good information in there that you can go to. You can see the data for your individual college, for example. So how does your college compare to other colleges on campus? We're not sharing data based at the department level because some departments have small sizes of graduate student populations, and we don't want to accidentally reveal any graduate student. So we're only showing the data publicly by college level. Okay, so we've actually been doing a lot in the graduate school to share this information. So again, the full report and the executive summary is posted on the website, and we're sharing that with all the administrators on campus. We're going around and giving presentations. So like last year, I gave kind of the overall view of the summary findings to the Graduate Student Council. Today, I'm talking about our recommendations. Jody Hanslick, the Dean of the Graduate School, and I did this presentation few weeks ago at the Fall Leadership Forum. And we have also given this information to our what we call the Graduate Education Council, which is a group that represents all of the associate deans of every college. So it's the Graduate Schools Advisory Council, and so we meet with the associate deans every month, and so we're sharing that. But what we're also doing is Jody and I are going around to every college, and we're meeting with the deans, the associate deans, and the department chairs, and sharing this information with them. We will be soon sharing this with all graduate students on campus, the executive summary and recommendations. So an email will go out to all the graduate students with the link to the reports and explaining what we're doing. And then what we have asked each dean is to come up with at least 2 initiatives that they're going to start with this year to address the concerns in their college. And so they're going to report back to me in January of what are the 2 things that they're going to be working on immediately to help improve campus climate for graduate students. We're going to be publishing what these initiatives are to hold them accountable, and then when they report the outcomes, we'll publish those outcomes as well. So you all will be able to go onto the website. I'll let you know where we post that, so that you can see what every college is going to do, and then you can go back later on and see what did they do about it, and did it make a difference. The recommendations that we're sharing are in the back of the executive summary, and they're fairly broad, but honestly, many of these are not hard to do. And most of these recommendations came directly from comments that the graduate students made in the open-ended questions. So for example, we need to facilitate more community building among graduate students, faculty, and staff. And those recommendations have a long list of ideas on just how to do that. We need to foster healthy mentor-mentee relationships. I'll talk a little bit more about what the graduate school is doing specifically about that. We need to do a better job of supporting our underrepresented and diverse student populations to ensure their success. We need to be transparent and communicate our policies, procedures, and campus resources. So for example, one of the things I'm advising departments to do is to review their graduate student handbook. How many of you are in a department that doesn't have a handbook? Hopefully everyone does. Everyone has a handbook. Is it useful? Okay. What I'm advising departments to do is actually get a group of graduate students together to review that handbook and provide suggestions on what needs to be in the handbook, and if it's not in there, what should be in there. What's the information that you need? And share best practices with each other, because there are some good things that departments are doing to support graduate students. And if they are doing something that's working really well, we want them to share that with other units, other programs. So share our best practices. So one of the things that we're doing in the graduate school is, in the last year or 2, we've invested some significant resources in improving mentoring on campus for graduate students. So one of the things that we've done, for example, is launch a mentoring mini grant competition, which awards faculty with some small grants to support mentoring activities in their department. We just sent out the call for the second round of this. So hopefully you're in a department that has a faculty member that will get some of this money and will implement a new mentoring program. We've also started a formal mentor training program for faculty on campus that is based off of the SIMMER project. So SIMMER stands for the Center for Improvement of Research, of Mentored Experiences in Research. It's not just for STEM though, it's applicable to all disciplines. And it's based off of a very famous mentoring program called Entering Mentoring. I don't know how many of you might have heard of that before. But it was developed by the University of Wisconsin. The reason why we looked at SIMMER as a model for mentor training is because it was developed by academics. The curriculum is designed for academics, for faculty, for graduate students, for postdocs, and also for undergraduate students. And its curriculum is designed to teach others how to be good mentors. It's applicable across wide disciplines. So again, not just STEM. And it's been highly researched and validated. So we know that this program works to improve mentoring on campuses across the country. There's been lots of studies done on this program. So to give you an idea what it does is, the SIMMER project develops curriculum to train, again, faculty and graduate students how to be good mentors. Some of the curricula include topics on aligning expectations. So how do you set expectations? How do you set expectations for your mentor? You know, as my advisor, this is what I expect of you and how to help me. And at the same time, the mentor's like, here are my expectations of you as a mentee. So it talks about how to have that conversation right away so that a year later, your mentor is not saying, well, you didn't work enough hours in the lab. Well, you never told me how many hours you expected me to be in the lab. Those kinds of things. There's curricula related to how to promote professional development for mentees, like graduate students, how to have effective communication between your mentor and mentee, addressing equity inclusion, so mentoring through a lens of diversity and inclusion, assessing understanding. As a mentee, am I really understanding what is expected of me? Fostering independence, how to become an independent researcher or scholar, cultivating ethical behavior, and then they're always developing more topics. So what we did with this was we set up a 2-day training for 12 faculty across the campus. So faculty from every college was represented, and in some cases there were 2 faculty per college. We had a 2-day training event where a facilitator that works with the SIMMER project came to campus and spent 8 hours each day with our faculty. So the first day, our faculty learned this curriculum. So essentially they went through a training process to become better mentors to their graduate students. Then on the second day, the faculty were trained to deliver these trainings. So the faculty were trained to facilitate and lead trainings to faculty and graduate students. So the good news is that we now have 12 faculty across the campus who can train faculty on how to be good mentors. And right now these faculty are developing their mentoring activities that they will launch later this semester and into the spring semester. And the graduate school is providing these faculty with funds to support their training so that they can have food or whatever, or print materials, whatever they need in order to deliver these trainings to faculty. They'll also be offering these trainings to graduate students so that for your own professional development, as you will be mentors in your careers. But depending on what college you're in, these are the faculty that are now these SIMMER faculty. So we're investing more funds to repeat this training next spring. We're going to train another cohort of 12 faculty so that by the end of next year, we'll now have 24 faculty who are skilled in training faculty on how to be good mentors. The hope, and this is what we're asking the deans and the associate deans and department chairs to do, is to reach out to these faculty, talk to them about what they can offer. And so, for example, anyone here in ag sciences? Yeah. So Andrew Norton was a SIMMER faculty in agricultural sciences, and he's going to create a course, a 1-credit course that graduate students can take if they want to learn how to be good mentors. He's also going to train, hopefully, all of the new assistant professors in the College of Ag Sciences on how to be a good mentor to graduate students. That is a great question. We're going to start with the assistant professors, but we are having this dialogue right now. All faculty need a refresher on how to be a good mentor.
Can we nominate
I certainly encourage you to,
Or can you like push them?
I have a nominee for Andrew, I come from Ag Sciences, I have a nominee for Andrew Norton that I will be asking him about, so.
Okay, can we like talk later, because I think there's somebody who would fit this really well.
Yeah. So I encourage you, if you have a faculty that you think would benefit from being trained on how to be a good mentor,
That's exactly
reach out to your college rep and ask
Oh
them.
no,
Yeah.
that wasn't a joke. I literally
Yeah.
think somebody would be excellent in this position. Like I
Oh.
think
faculty training.
I'm
that's
not-
a joke.
I was not being
Okay.
sarcastic at all. I'm so sorry.
I was being
that,
sarcastic.
Okay, I was. Okay.
Okay, but good. If you do have ideas, because we are seeking 12 more faculty to participate.
I didn't mean it sarcastically.
No.
That's funny in
So
sarcastic
good.
sense.
So
But
if
like,
you
no, I
think
totally
you know
do
a
have a
faculty who would be a
Should we-
great simmer faculty person, tell Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or should we just like, can that person, I maybe like talk to them and see
Yeah,
if they're
say-
interested, and then they can like talk to Andrew.
Yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I'd rather not just like go and say, hey, Dr.
Yeah.
Norton, like whatever, you
Yeah.
know, instead of talking to that person.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
So what we're hoping is having these cohorts of faculty on campus, these simmer faculty, eventually that will have faculty who are trained at CSU on how to be a good mentor for graduate students, and that if graduate students and postdocs participate in this training, they'll have the professional development and will be good mentors in their future careers. And one of the things that we've also learned is that as you're learning how to be a good mentor, you're also learning how to be a good mentee. Like, oh, if that's what I'm supposed to be doing, then maybe I should do this. But anyway, so I'm very excited about that program. And so anyway, I just want to let you know what it is that we're doing in response to the survey findings. So we're having these conversations with the colleges. I'm actually meeting next week to start planning the next survey. And so that will probably come out in spring of 2020. And so if there are specific topics that you would like to be asked about in the survey, please send me an email. I would appreciate that very much. Oh, I didn't put my email on there. Ryan will get you my email. It's mary.stromberger@colostate.edu. But we'll start planning that survey. We'll have, some of the questions will be the same as the last survey because we want to get some longitudinal data and see if we're making improvements. But I'm also thinking about a series of questions related to mentoring and students' perceptions of the mentoring that they're receiving on campus. So with that, Ryan, is there time for questions or done? Okay. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay. Yeah.
So I'm glad to see all these recommendations for diversity and inclusion and mentoring. The one that I don't see any recommendations for is finances.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
No, so I'm glad you said that. I'm also, because of my former role in faculty council, I'm on the Affordable Housing Task Force on campus. So we're having a meeting next month, and I will be talking about how do we not only provide affordable housing to our employees, but what about our graduate students? It's a serious issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are concerns about health insurance ever brought up in those meetings?
All the time. Yeah. I mean, it's a big thing, and we're acutely aware of it because, you know, and on the positive side, providing health insurance to graduate students is a great selling point. It's a great recruitment tool. So, yeah, if you have specific concerns about health insurance, either communicate them to Ryan or communicate them to me, but it's something that we're always addressing or thinking about. Yeah, did you have a question?
I'll go last.
Oh, okay.
So I guess the quick question I have is, does every department have a cohort group or something like that on campus? Because I know we didn't have one before last year, before this survey came out.
Like a cohort?
Yeah, like
Not
cohort.
necessarily. Where you see cohorts are generally in, like master's plan B or a professional master's degree that admit so many students a year.
Okay.
And they move through in a prescribed curriculum.
Yeah, I think that the development of that in my program actually was a really big key.
Okay.
Key at least getting networking throughout
Yeah.
the students, because it was difficult for me when I was going in to have networking between my colleagues if I wasn't in the class all the time with them, and if they were in different areas.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So I wonder, that's kind of what I wonder is if we could maybe generate those groups within the colleges.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. And so I would talk with your SIMR faculty person, or if you're generating recommendations, what college are you in?
I'm education.
Education, so that's health and human sciences.
Health and human
So
sciences, yeah.
I don't know if you know Patty Davies.
I have talked with her maybe once.
Okay, she would be a great person to send an email to, because she's the one that we charge with coming up with the initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to finance, because it's
Yeah.
important. I know that this is like a little out of student fees, the fact that I can't pay them off by the 10th, there's
Yeah.
gonna be an interest fee applied to that.
By what date?
I think the 10th of October.
October 10th.
But
Okay.
I can't, that's more than my monthly salary,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't see any reason why we're being charged for having to wait.
So I'm trying to remember the dates. Are you on a? Is that the? Is that
It's already
the?
pushed back from.
That's already the pushback date. Okay. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you honestly what I would like to see, and we're starting to have these conversations, but I can't promise anything, is the fees and health insurance distributed over the course of the year. I mean, which to me makes a lot of sense, rather than here's a lump sum that's due. So, I mean, we have, our current dean is retiring. She's done a lot of good for the graduate school. We have an opportunity with the new dean coming in to have some new and more urgent conversations, and this is one of them that we need to have. Yeah.
Speaking of lump sums, is there any possibility of getting paid twice a month instead of one at the very end? Because that makes financing really difficult.
That would be great, but I really doubt that, because our HR systems are just not set up to do that.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm
Appreciate
sure
that.
our employees have asked about that too.
Yeah.
So if it would be done, it would be done for everybody. So I'm just wondering, there's opportunities for graduate student council to maybe talk with some of the employee council about some of these issues. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Okay. No, so I have
Okay.
an announcement.
Oh,
to make,
okay.
But it kind of just goes
Okay.
into what you're saying.
Yeah.
So my name is Lewis. I work with Neighbor to Neighbor, and we just met with CSU, and we have a new program called Home Share. It's for affordable housing for graduate students and for faculty.
Okay.
So this is where we match you with somebody 55 and older, and then you live in their house or you rent their rooms. And we have rent. Our highest rent is $700, and our lowest is free. So if you would like to know more or possibly get free rents, I have this here. Shoot us an email, come talk to us in the off-campus life, or just call.
Does that include people who have families?
Yep, so if there's no, I mean, the only thing that excludes you from it is if you have violent crime or sex offense. So anything else you can apply.
Sweet. That's phenomenal. Okay, cool. So, quick wrap up with what Mary said. Actually, Amanda and I met with our department's graduate advisor, and they just had a meeting in College of Natural Sciences to talk about these issues. One of the big things that they brought up from the faculty and staff side is that they don't know what graduate students want. So we had like an hour discussion with her about the different things that CNS can be doing for the future and ways that can move forward. So I would challenge you all to reach out to either your department chairs, or if you have a graduate chair that's different from your department chair, to actually meet with them and talk about these kind of things, because they really want your feedback on that stuff.
Yeah, so far the colleges, the deans, the department chairs that have heard this presentation have been College of Liberal Arts, College of Vet Med, Biomedical Sciences, Natural Sciences, and Ag Sciences. So if you're in those colleges and you start talking about this, they should know exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to Health and Human Sciences next week. And then I forget the other dates, but we'll have gotten through all of the colleges by early January. So, okay. Thanks for having that conversation with natural sciences.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So moving on to our next thing. How many of you guys saw Researcher of the Month applications go out? Yeah. So we actually have our first winners. So do you want to announce it?
I don't think she's here because she's actually a postdoc, but our winner for this month, her name is Bonnie Young. She's from the Environmental Health Department, and she has this cool research project where she lives in Honduras. She's lived there for 4 years cumulatively, and she installs cook stoves in houses that use dangerous coal-burning stoves before it, so she's improving the respiratory health of families in Honduras. She also has a cat named Battle Cat who was a stray in Honduras that she found, and he was so cute she took her home. And she aspires to continue doing this type of research after her postdoc. So I am just wondering, is the Environmental Health Department rep here today? No, okay, great. Yeah, well, congrats to Bonnie Young. And then we had a bunch of applications. We had 28. And so continue applying. If you want your application to be reconsidered, I'll send out an email announcement, but just email us and we can put your same application in for the November Grad Researcher of the Month if you're interested. And if you didn't sign up, apply. We're putting together the prize still, but we're thinking about having it be like bagels and coffee sent to your department so you're not going to.
Oh.
Yeah. The winnings are great, yeah.
Cool. Sweet. So the next thing is we have travel awards coming up, which is pretty cool. I think actually for this round, the officer team is going to take care of it. So we have changed the way that we structure travel awards a little bit. If you all applied, did anyone apply this cycle? No, that's okay. Cool. So we changed the way that we asked the questions. In the past, it was extremely volunteer heavy, and we didn't necessarily think that was fair for what you're going to travel for. So we incorporated a lot more things as in what you're bringing to the conference and what you plan on bringing back from the conference to try to find the impact that you're going to be having both on CSU and wherever you're going. So we're working on a new grading scale for that. We're going to pilot it with the 5 of us to see how it works, and then after that we'll bring this out to committee forum for hopefully you all to experience as well. Cool. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. We are still in the development stages of it. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of the week. Okay, and then next thing I have is Volunteers for Graduate School Fair. So this is when they have an event for all the undergrads on campus, and basically they get to come and ask what grad school is like, and so we would really like you all to volunteer if you could. It's 3 to 6, but we can do this in shifts, so if you can only do a little bit at a time, that would be totally fine. But basically it's just sharing your experience with grad school and either providing recommendations for doing it or not doing it, whatever you're feeling. But I think it would be amazing if you guys could do that. So if you're willing to, please come talk to us about that, because I think it's a really great experience in the grad school. Yeah.
When is it?
It is October 30th.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, 3 to 6 p.m. Yeah. Perfect. Yes. Okay, next one. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening with ASCSU. I think we talked to you guys a lot at the first meeting about how there's some discrepancies with how we get our money and stuff. I've had a lot of meetings with them since then, and what we're going to be doing is actually repositioning the Graduate Student Council president position to oversee Graduate Student Council, but also have representation on the ASCSU board. So starting, I think in 2 weeks, I will be doing both positions and be on the ASCSU board, which means that they can then transfer that money to me so that I can use it for Graduate Student Council. As of right now, it has not been finalized, but they are voting on it in the next couple weeks. But we are looking at about $60,000 being transferred to Graduate Student Council. For reference, we have been operating. We've been operating on about $2,000 to $3,000 previously, so we have a lot of stuff coming our way. And for the spring semester, when this does happen, we're going to start ramping up a lot of stuff. So potentially we could be asking for a lot of ideas from you all. We're going to start doing professional development series, some outreach to online students, and start supporting graduate student organizations in a much bigger way. So right now it's just the petty cash form, which is about $50, but we're going to increase that to basically what SOFA does, where you just present however much you need and we'll be able to support you because we have a lot of money now. So we're really excited about that. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening.
We already did it, yeah.
Oh,
Or yeah, so if you have more than $50.
sweet. If you have more than $50, you can request it now. Cool. So any questions about that? Yeah.
Do we have to change the constitution, our constitution in some way to describe the job description?
We do, yeah. So what is happening right now is ASCSU is rewriting their constitution, which is what we're waiting on to be voted on, which will happen on Tuesday, tomorrow, or 2 weeks.
They're going to present it on Wednesday, and then next Wednesday they're vote for.
Okay, cool. So it'll be happening soon. As soon as that happens, I will rewrite our constitution to match the wording of theirs, and then I'll send it out to the council to be approved. And ours is not nearly as severe as theirs, so if you guys just don't respond, I'll take it as a yes. So yeah, it should be good. Any other questions on that? Yeah.
This is, again, tangential.
Yeah.
Don't we have votes within the ASCSU?
We do, which is what Jeffrey does. So the position that I'll be taking over for ASCSU is on the cabinet of the president. So I won't have any voting rights within the Senate. It's just basically an advisor position to represent grad students.
So that being said, we have Senate positions open. So if you want a vote and you want to be that vote, you should be a senator.
Currently, there's only one, I guess, graduate student, me,
Yeah.
out of 7 available spots.
So he is representing every single graduate student.
I only have one person's power, not 7.
Yeah.
It would be great to have extra people.
Yes.
Yes, and there apparently was a typo, which I am extremely excited about. The position has been updated in ASCSU, so graduate students are not required to do the 5 hours a week minimum for that. You only have to go to Senate meetings, correct?
And retreat per year.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot less requirements than it used to be, which is wonderful. And for reference, Senate meetings have been lasting pretty close to exactly an hour this year, which is really nice versus the 4 that they have been in the past. So, yeah.
Now's the time.
Now is the time.
Yes.
Cool. So I think that's the big things that I had. Do you guys have?
Go ahead. So I was gonna say, since we do now have more money for graduate student organizations, this doesn't have to be a slice organization. Am I correct in saying that? So like if you just want to have a gathering for people that are in your department or, you know, in your college or something like that, and you want to start some of these initiatives on more professional developments and inclusion activities and stuff like that, like please do that, and then, you know, we have the money to fund you if you write your proposal. So that's not just an organization, it can be just any event that you have.
Do we collectively have to vote on what's going to be funded?
Nope. So Shar has already been breaking down, we've been talking with Mary too about where we think money should be divided. So we'll actually share that with you all pretty soon, just the breakdown that we've been thinking about. As far as the funding going to different organizations, right now it's set up that it would just be the exec board just has to approve it. If we want to change that, or if you all feel that that needs to be changed, we can change that, but that's how it's set up right now in the Constitution.
And then just to follow up on what we've been talking about, the application for using these funds is online. It's under the petty cash tab that Savannah put on the website. So if you're interested or you have an idea, just fill it out. It's a Google form. It should take you like a minute. And we'll get back to you.
Okay, 3. Yeah, Dylan.
So if we don't vote on things, what do representatives do to the council?
Great question. Yeah. So a big thing that we're going to start pushing moving forward is this subcommittee idea, and really being the people that go out and talk to your departments and representing the voices back to GSC. So we're kind of, the way that I kind of see it is GSC is going to become a hub for graduate voices and organizations, and not necessarily like strict rules, if that makes sense.
But if there's something, if I imagine that if the amount that people are applying for exceeds a certain threshold, then we need to start voting. But I mean, right now it's been $50. I don't think we've had anything extreme.
Someone changed theirs to 70.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, once we get into the waters, we're probably gonna have to start figuring out what we're gonna put on stuff like that. So.
This is all new territory for us. We're still trying to.
Do we have to use all of that money? Does it roll over to the next year?
Good question. So the money that comes from ASCSU, we do have to use within this year. The amount that comes from the graduate school, which is $10,000, is protected and can roll over. So what we're going to be doing is focusing spending all of the ASCSU money and then potentially rolling over some into next year. Yeah.
Where's that ASCSU money coming from?
Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
Great question. So it actually is coming from an initiative that Tristan, who is the ASCSU president, did. He wanted to cut student fees at the beginning of the year. So he went and looked for a place to cut them and found online student fees, and figured that ASCSU is not providing enough support to them, so he was going to cut that amount. It got voted down, which is weird, but that money didn't get allocated anywhere because he planned on cutting it, so that money will be transferred to us, which is why we're going to try to push to do some online student things in the future as well. Yeah.
Where will money come in the future then?
Great question. So this is a cover for this year. So this is a simple this year thing that we're getting the transfer from online students. Moving forward, they are also changing their constitution to permanently have graduate student council in the budget. So it will be a permanent addition.
Is it only going to be the $60,000?
As of right now, it will be. If we show that we can use that amount and use it effectively on campus, they have told me that they will consider increasing it as well.
With that being said, I think that shows that we kind of need to up our game as a unit, like show up to things, encourage your departments to show up to things. If you're representative, actually communicate with your department head, things like that.
Going on with that, I need committee members still for faculty.